Good morning. You're listening to Caregiver Crossing, a podcast brought to you by Joy's House, presented in partnership with Cardon and Associates. We're happy you're here. If you don't know already, Caregiver Crossing is a podcast created just for you, the caregiver. I'm Tina McIntosh.
And I am Candace Hattabaugh. Good morning, Tina.
I was just going to say, if you're missing Terry Stacy, by the way, which I know we all do, I can see her on the screen and she's playing with a microphone that's not working. So you might hear her soon. But right now, you're stuck with Candace and me. So go ahead, Candace.
Today, we are joined by Linda VanderWeir. She is a family caregiver, retired educator, and from our conversations, a future author. Linda, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
Well, and I have to tell you, Terry, so this is how things work in Terry Stacy's world, people. She met Linda at Sullivan's last summer because Terry knows Linda's husband, John. John is a pastor, and they came in during the Alzheimer's fundraiser that was there at Sullivan's and shared their story of caregiving. And from what Linda says, Terry then said, you should give me a call. And Linda said something like, yeah, I might not do that. And yet here she is. So we're so excited that you're here. Understand that you are caring for two sets of parents and you're all in the same house. Is that right?
My mother-in-law passed away from dementia in about 2016, and she was in a care home. And we didn't really understand dementia at the time very much, but we've had a crash course. Back in 2018 or so, it became obvious we needed to take the parents in. So we had my dad, my mom, and my father-in-law that came in to live here in the house. And long story, our fathers have passed on, eternally healed, and we still have mom here.
Oh.
But yes, for quite a while, it was all five of us with three parents that needed care, and my husband and me.
You know, Linda, I think you just said something that hits me, as a Christian, and I believe, are you a Christian as well from what I gathered before we jumped on the call?
Absolutely.
And hearing you say, eternally healed, it is such a blessing, and a curse isn't the right way to say it, but it's blessing and heartbreaking when they leave us, right? So, from our faith perspective, eternally healed is the most beautiful way to say it, and yet we're left behind. And so I'm sorry to hear that you've had three, very beloved people pass away in the last handful of years. Let's just stop there for a second and say, how are you doing?
Tired would be my first, the gamut of emotions that you go through. The highs are so high and the lows are incredibly low. Let's put it this way. I was a teacher for over 30 years, and the last part of my career I spent teaching middle school, and that was hard. But I look back now and think that was easy. So not that I have regrets in what we're doing, but it is wearying. And eventually, especially with the daddies, it became 24/7. And I don't know. I'm probably jumping ahead, but home is usually a haven where you go to unwind and all of that. And to unwind, we have to leave the home, and not from wanting to get away from them, but the weight of the responsibility is it hangs over your head all the time, and it becomes quite heavy. The joys are there too. We have 6 grandchildren and our kids, and it's often that 4 generations, at least every week, 4 generations are here. Everyone involved and building bonds that wouldn't be built any other way. Even the grandkids, ages 3 through 8, know that I will say, "Oh, here comes Grandma, clean the walkway."
Yes.
They know they're involved, and they pour out love. So yes, just the extreme highs and lows. I'm doing well. I'm in a learning curve that will never end, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be able to put into these folks, my parents, what they've put into me. So
you make so many great points, in such a short amount of time, so many great points. And one of them is that collective exhaustion that happens when you're caring for a loved one. There's the immediate stuff, right? I'm not sleeping well through the night. I had to get up and help mom go to the restroom, or dad, called out for medication or a snack, or, got scared, whatever it was. There's that immediate, but there is that collective, cumulative exhaustion, I guess would probably be the right way to say it. And I think a lot of times we think when somebody passes away, that's going to just bounce right back. And it doesn't. And so one of the things we talk about at Joy's House, probably not enough on Caregiver Crossing yet, but at Joy's House, is what happens with caregivers in that transition period, which is where you are. Now you're still caring for, do you still have a loved one at home?
My mom.
Mom. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for a lot of people, that would be a limit, right? And you've had 4. And then I think the other point I just want to sit on, and Candace, feel free to respond to this, is you say you were a
Yes.
teacher, pause, middle school, pause, collectively for decades, pause. And what you have been doing with the people you love the most, that you wouldn't change a thing, is more exhausting than all of that.
Yes.
And I think people who are listening need to hear that, Linda, because sometimes we need permission to understand or to feel like, yeah, this is heavy. I wouldn't change it. Doesn't mean to change it, but man, it's heavy. So thank you for saying all of that.
Yes.
Candace, your thoughts?
Go ahead, Linda.
I was just going to say it makes the grieving different too when you have multiples, because I feel like, the dads have been gone for a little while, but I haven't really grieved yet because I feel like I'm still in this gotta stay up, gotta stay motivated, can't let down and fall apart. And as much as I miss them, as much as I can't get over being happy for where they are and sad for my being left behind, still the grieving changes because you feel like you can't really let go right now,
Yeah.
and another heaviness that tears might help to release. Not a pity
Linda,
party.
I kind of liken that to the fight or flight. Because I know here at Joyce House, when we have an emergency and everyone is needed on the floor to help with guests, we just want to make sure that they're all taken care of, they're all safe. Whoever needs to go wherever they need to go, they get there. And then the excitement calms down, and we all kind of are able to take that sigh of relief or cry or whatever the situation may call for. So it's not my prayer that one day whenever that time comes, you'll be able to take your sigh of relief and know that you did everything you could do. But rewinding a little bit, you had 4 parents at home with you. How did you come to that conversation to even say, mom, dad, I think it's time for you to have some extra help?
Like I said, my mother-in-law never lived here with us, but we went to where she was to care. And it's really funny because years ago, John's parents and my parents, they're wonderful people, both of them, but they're on opposite ends of the spectrum as far apart as you can get. And we just on a whim were out driving in the country years ago and saw a very long house, just the longest house I've ever seen. And I laughed and I said, let's pretend someday we took all our parents in with us. That's the kind of house we'd need. Your parents on the far one end and my parents on the far other end and us in the middle, and we would all get along, but we never dreaming that they would all come to live with us. My dad's dementia diagnosis came many years ago. And for a while, he was functional. And we, at that point, believed that mom was able to care for him. It really was not going well. My brothers and I got together years ago and talked about how we would care for the parents, what we could do to lighten the load while they were in the house as long as possible. And it became obvious they needed to move out. So they moved into not assisted living, a retirement center. We thought that was the answer. It did not go well. I won't go into detail, but they were miserable, absolutely miserable. And there was talk of separating them, which they didn't want, putting daddy in memory care and all. And we realized we needed to get them out. And so we'd been looking for a house on the north side. My husband's church had moved to the north side. We'd been looking for 5 years and still driving 80 miles, to church and not understanding why. And we realized when we had to take my parents in that we needed something for them. Then a house became available within weeks, and it's the perfect layout, absolutely perfect. I cannot express not a perfect home, not a new home. We had to do some alterations, but it's exactly what we needed, to take care of them. At the same time, my father-in-law, who'd been basically living at my mother-in-law's side in the rehab assisted living that she was in, moved back home, had invalided himself through lack of activity to a wheelchair. He was on 24/7 oxygen. We walked in one day and saw him, bless his heart, lighting the fire with his oxygen on. And we thought, this is not wise. And we realized, and he was lonely. He wasn't eating right. And we thought we need to bring him in too. And we prayed about it. And then this house became available. And all of a sudden, that's what we were doing. We are thankful that everything has been okay to this point. But yes, that is how we came to bringing them all in.
You're hearing the voice of Linda VanderWeir, who's a family caregiver, a retired educator, and a future author, which I think we'll learn more about here in a minute. And before the break, Linda shared that she and her husband found themselves caring for both sets of their parents at one time. The majority of them were under one roof together. And I know, Linda, you mentioned that you had 3 goals when you brought your parents in to live with you. And I understand them to be: 1, keep them as safe as you could; 2, as healthy as you could; and 3, laughing as much as you could. But you said that just wasn't feasible. Why is that?
Well, it sounded noble at the time, and it's not that we don't want them to be as safe as we can and as healthy as we can and laughing as much as we can, but it was a heavy burden. It was too heavy. The weight of that was too much, and ultimately it was not in our hands to start with. And although we kept those goals, the words that became our goal was "as we can." We can do what we can. The weight of perfection, doing everything just right, and making sure there are no illnesses and there are no bad days and there are no injuries. We had to lift that off of ourselves, place it back in God's hands, and realize that we could do the best we could. And to be honest, some bests are better than other bests. It depends on the day, as
Yes.
we could
But
do.
before, I know Candace has a couple more questions before we have to wrap. I think what you just said is, I mean, Linda, you're so good, by the way. You're saying all these little nuggets that I'm like, oh, I hope people are writing these things down or go back and listen to them again. But you said you just basically had to recalibrate yourself, right? That you just had
Absolutely.
to stop and say, okay, that was the plan. That's not going to work all of the time. We'll allow it to work some of the time, and we'll fill it in with other things. And I know Candace and I just had an experience together this week where I was upset about something. And in the middle of the conversation to the person I was talking with, I said, give me just a second, because this is how I'm feeling. It's not how I want to continue feeling. I need to recalibrate myself. Give me just a moment. And all right, let's talk more. And I love hearing that validated by what you're saying, is sometimes it's just that easy. I'm not saying anything is easy in what you've been doing, but sometimes the rethinking the way we're looking at something, that perspective, it's just that easy to stop telling ourselves that same tizzy of a story and be like, different perspective.
I have to allow myself to be human. We've had injuries, we've
Yes.
had illnesses, but I was doing the best I could. And I have to let that be enough. I'm a perfectionist. I'm not perfect. And there's I even had a therapist say to me that you're doing fine, but I want you to know that accidents are going to happen no matter what you do, and it won't be your fault. And mom, at this point, 5 doctors have told her to use a walker, but that's not happening. She has no clue that she needs it. And my aerobics, it seems at this point, is my heart racing when I see her trying to get across the room. And but I can't force it. And what's going to happen is going to happen. And I'm trying my best. And I have to
Absolutely.
put hands up and say, okay.
Linda, did you come across any surprises, you individually or as a family, once you brought everyone home with you?
You want to laugh? The funniest thing that we learned is my husband and I learned an awful lot about each other by living with each other's parents at the same time. I would do something and he'd look at my parents and he'd go, ah, I know where you got that. And I'd look at him and say, I know, I see where that comes from now. And as much as we learned about ourselves, it really is, as hard as it is on a marriage, to be honest, as hard as it is, we've learned a lot about each other, and that's not a bad thing.
What a beautiful thing to come out of that. What an unexpected, beautiful thing. So good for you. All right. Before we have to wrap here, what's the book?
I have a blog right now. Since 3rd grade, I've wanted to write a book. I thought it would be fiction, but it's not. It's inspirational. And I wanted to write a book on praising the Lord and what that does to all of me. That is not just to praise God. That helps me. That takes when I get my attention off of things here and put my attention on praising God and who He is, then things here don't seem so heavy. And I realize
All
that
right.
He's in charge.
I'm going to ask you, and I've never done this in our show in the decade or so that we've been doing this. We don't not really know. We say like, I don't know, 7 to 73 years. We don't really know. But Linda, for anyone listening who is a Christian, I'm going to ask you to just perk up a little bit. Anybody listening who's not, we love you. You have value, all the things. And maybe you can just sit and meditate for a minute. But Linda, can you share with us what some of that praise might look like?
Behind everything that God does is a character trait. And once I discover that character trait, my trust in him grows. Even the hard things that come up, if I had no need for comfort, I wouldn't know that he's the God of comfort. If I had no need for companionship, I wouldn't realize what a friend he can be. If I had no need for a savior, I wouldn't realize how much he loved me in his sacrifice for me. And I look at something as simple as he giveth more grace. Wow, I need to. That's a good one. But in that, I learn not just he giveth more grace, but I learn about the character of God. He's a giver, and he's generous, and he's looking at me, and he sees when I need more grace. He's personally involved. So many things that once I put my mind on, Lord, you are all these things. How can I not trust you? And takes my ideal, and I always have. And especially now, I do deal with depression and anxiety. Caregiving does not help that. It's definitely not a cure. But at the same time, when I am feeling anxious or anything, and I remember who God is, my focus isn't on me anymore. It's on him.
That's right. Amen. Thank you for that. Our family therapist once told one of my kiddos who has anxiety, a little bit of anxiety is not a bad thing. It keeps you from walking in front of a moving bus. So we'll all take some of that and we'll know when to temper it. And in your case, we can learn how to give praise for that. So tell us the name of the blog.
My blog is Ironing the Preacher's Shirts. .wordpress.com. Yes, and it's the Monday. I have a lot of fun with it, and it's not overcoming with praise will eventually be the name, I hope, of the book that I'm writing. I also would like to memoir this journey.
Yes.
But Ironing the Preacher's Shirts, lessons, laughs, and love behind the scenes at the preacher's house. Everybody gets curious about what happens at a preacher's house. Well, guess what? Same thing as happens at everybody else's house. And it's
the truth.
The lessons that I learn, very transparent, very just what I find, the lessons I find in in looking at an extension cord. There's a lesson in there. I saw it laying out on the porch, and I thought, got to be plugged in at both ends in order to be used. And so everything becomes a lesson. And that's basically what my blog is now, trying to build a platform so that I become publishable, I guess you'd say.
Well, as you should. So Ironing the Preacher's Shirts is the blog, and be looking for the book to come. Linda VanderWeir is our guest today. Thank you so much for joining us. And for those of you who are listening, we'd like to hear from you as well. So if you found something that is working for you, or even something that's not working for you when it comes to the caregiving journey, please share that with us or somebody else you'd like to see us have on the show. And so as we close here, you can contact me at tina@joyshouse.org, TINA@joyshouse.org. I know Candace has a sponsor she wants to thank as well.
Yeah. Before we go, we want to thank our sponsor, Cardon and Associates. With 20 communities owned, operated, and managed in the Midwest, and more than 40 years of senior living experience, Cardon and Associates provides residents with the best senior living options and personalized care. All right, that's it for us here on Caregiver Crossing. Until next time, take good care of each other.